Let's talk in general about Pakistan's foreign policy and how it's dealing with different countries. Do you think Pakistan's been able to balance between Iran and Saudi Arabia, for example?
Look, the Pakistan People's Party has always believed in a very activist foreign policy. And most of our historical foreign policy events and achievements in Pakistan's history has happened during Pakistan People's Party's government. As far as Saudi Arabia or Iran or any other of our neighbors are concerned, I think that the government does need to do more to engage our neighbors. They've not engaged all our neighbors in the way that they should have done, I believe.
By that, do you mean they haven't engaged with Iran? Because Saudi Arabia, they seem
I believe at the moment there's a minister in Iran on the government side. But no, I don't believe that they have invested or engaged appropriately with Iran. Not this government, not the last government. I don't believe that we've had proper engagement with Afghanistan. I don't believe we've had the proper engagement with India. And as far as this government is concerned, I believe we could have better engagement with China.
So talking of China, do you agree or disagree with the view that CPEC is a form of financial imperialism?
You know what I think is funny? The US lecturing the world on financial imperialism. I think that let's contextualize everything. The One Belt, One Road initiative, the reinvigoration and reintroduction of the new Silk Road is, I think, a revolutionary idea. It projects China's soft power, economic power, encourages trade and integration and economic development across the region. And the problem that Pakistan had with the One Belt, One Road when the Pakistan People's Party came into power is that we didn't have a piece of the pie. Pakistan was not a part of the One Belt, One Road. And that's when the Pakistan People's Party campaigned and worked towards the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor that is now a fundamental part of the One Belt, One Road initiatives. Our approach was that if we were able to encourage economic development in FATA, in Balochistan, in areas most hit by terrorism and extremism, that would help us in winning over the hearts and minds of the victims of extremism. And I don't believe it's imperialism. I believe that the United States and other powers who are now considering of cutting and running from Afghanistan, instead of jealously trying to undermine the CPEC or the One Belt, One Road, come and compete in good old-fashioned capitalism. Perhaps Pakistan and Afghanistan should insist that if the US is going to abruptly pull out of Afghanistan, then there must be a Marshall Plan for South Asia. And that way, they could also project their economic soft power within the region. I believe there are legitimate questions about perhaps transparency or debt associated with CPEC. But I believe that the potential here is something that we can't let go. This is China's only access to the warm waters, and it'll be through Pakistan. People raise questions about, oh, we're building all this infrastructure. Will we be able to actually have the trade to do that? Fair enough, at the moment our exports to China are abysmal. But I hope that we do build that sort of trade relationships, and I hope we are able to pay back these loans, and I believe we will do.
What can Pakistan do to make sure war doesn't break out with India?
Well, I think that Pakistan has made sincere efforts for de-escalation. We have shown the utmost maturity, for perhaps more maturity than can be expected of any other nation under such an assault, and have not been provoked to retaliate as of yet. I believe that the Modi government has really shattered all international precedents and norms when it comes to the Pulwama attack and its aftermath. We condemn violence on all sides. The Pakistan People's Party does not believe in violence. But to exploit a domestic, even if you call it a terrorist attack, a domestic terrorist attack.
But they said the attack was by a Pakistan-based group.
That's easy to say, not so easy to prove. And how can you claim? I understand if it's perhaps a non-state actor from another country entering India, you can prove they came from somewhere else, and therefore, although I don't believe the nation state should be held responsible for the actions of non-state actors, but I understand that there's an international precedent set, and in that context, perhaps there'd be another case. But in this case, as I said in Parliament, there's no case, no cause or justification. This was a citizen of Indian-occupied Kashmir conducting an attack within Indian-occupied Kashmir. Other terrorist groups across the world or within Pakistan may try and claim credit. But they didn't provide the explosives, they didn't provide any training, they have no access to Indian-controlled territory within disputed territory between India and Pakistan. So this was a despicable politicization, not only of a terrorist attack, but potential nuclear war for an election.
What's your problem with mainstreaming of certain militant groups? Whose policy is it to mainstream them? And what do you think is the alternative?
So I don't understand the concept of mainstreaming. It is something I hear about on television and from various members of the ruling party. And I do not believe that it is in line with the National Action Plan, the unanimous decision of Parliament. So I don't understand and don't believe that it should be a state policy. Obviously, the Pakistan People's Party has a very humanitarian outlook. I believe every individual should be guaranteed human rights. But for us to even consider mainstreaming, there has to be policy input by those who should be making policy. There has to be confidence-building measures. You have to have a re-education, de-radicalization, before we talk about reintegration. And of course, the very first step should have been a de-weaponization, none of which I believe has taken place.